Sales Live. I'm your host, Joe Beck, founder of The Sales Activist and host of the Impact Sales podcast. Impact Sales Live was created to shine a spotlight on the best practices and tips that will help you stand out from the crowd in regards to sales. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a coach, a consultant, or a sales professional selling for a company, you'll get a lot of value from Impact Sales Live. I'll be hosting Impact Sales Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So block off your calendar and make sure that you start off your week the right way right here. Impact Sales Live today is sponsored by our premier sponsor, Podcast EZ. Podcast EZ is your go-to source for all things podcasting. They helped us create the Impact Sales podcast, and it was a game changer. We absolutely loved the experience of working with Podcast Easy. So I want to jump in and dig into some things. But before we do that, I'd like to start things off with a quick explanation about Impact Sales Live. See, Impact Sales Live truly was created to be something that was unique and different in the marketplace, something where people got true actionable tips and insights that they could share and put in the world that they're working on. Literally take it and put it into action. So more importantly, what you're going to get in today's experience, as well as other experiences going forward, is a lot of variety. We're going to talk about different topics. We're going to shake things up. We're going to bring in guests. They're going to be sharing some stories and successes. And most importantly, we're going to make sure that you get those insights that you can put into action for yourself. Today's Impact Sales Live is going to be about one of the favorite topics that I get from people, because I get it all the time. People will reach out to me and say, hey, just curious, exactly what do you do, or what do you have to do to be able to close more business? How do you close more deals, close more business? How do you close more frequently, improve your closure ratio? I get the question in a variety of different formats, right? Sometimes it's pretty straightforward, like how do you close more? Sometimes it's a little bit more of a complex discussion, but it ultimately comes down to the same thing. People want to know how to close more and generate more sales. So I thought I'd start off with today's live talking specifically about how I answer that question. And I answer that question a lot of different ways, depending upon how the question is asked. But the end answer is very much the same. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of times people will ask me specifically, how do I close this type of a deal? Or how do I close more frequently using this type of an offer? And I always come back to the one common element that improves the likelihood for your success each and every time you're engaging with the prospect. And that is, you need to typically either slow down or stop selling and focus more on asking better questions and providing more of an impact. And when I was creating the title for this particular live, a number of people had given me some suggestions about closing, some different things that they were very interested in seeing. And ultimately, when I read the questions, they came back to the same type thing, like, what am I doing that's not allowing me to close, is really what they were saying. And to be able to dig into that, I really wanted to focus on the fact that many times people struggle with closing, particularly when they really are having a difficult time positioning things the right way. So, to be able to be successful in any sales interaction, you really need to go back to the beginning. You need to go back and think through exactly how you approach somebody, what the interaction dynamic was like, how you communicated with them, and ask yourself one simple question. And I want you to think about this. This is something that you probably want to write down. And the question is this: have I earned the right to ask them to do business with me? And it's a very serious question, but it's literal as it relates to how you need to, in your own mind, look at where you are in the sales process. And I've had the great fortune of working with thousands and thousands of different entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, sales professionals in a variety of different industries. And when I evaluate where things break down, when I look at what didn't work versus what worked, and I look at the successful producers and the ones that struggled, ultimately, it came down to many times the people that were struggling were either not asking enough closing opportunities. They weren't closing it at all, or they were closing at the wrong time when they hadn't really earned the right. They were pushing when they shouldn't have pushed. They were maybe more aggressive than they should have been, or they didn't really do the legwork or the foundational work that was necessary for them to be successful closing when they did do it. And this is really, really important because no matter where you fall in the comfort level of selling, whether you're somebody who's extremely confident and comfortable, or whether you're somebody who is successful because you're sincere and you're able to provide a great value or a tremendous product or service or offering to the world, and people like you and want to do business with you, or whether you are somebody who finds it very, very difficult and, uncomfortable for you. And this is going to be real for some people today, because for some people, when it comes to the idea of sales or selling in general, they get nauseous. They get a pit in their stomach. They just struggle with the idea of asking somebody to give them money for something related to their business, even if it's necessary, even if it's the best solution they've ever seen. There are still people that struggle with it emotionally. Sometimes it's the mindset. Sometimes it's how they look at a particular issue. Sometimes it's the individual person and just getting beyond that comfort zone and pushing themselves forward to be successful. But for many people, the challenge that they run into as it relates to selling comes from the fact that they haven't yet earned the right. So I want you to write this down. You close and ask for the business when you feel that you have earned the right by giving them all the information that you can and having a thorough conversation, that you've earned the right to ask for the business. And I want to start today with that because for many people, they don't know where that line is. And you always want to err on the side of caution. You always want to be well above that threshold of knowing that you've earned the right. But let's take it to the next level. Now, let's say you've done those things, you've earned the right. What are the things that hold people back? Why do people struggle to close? Well, maybe they hadn't provided enough value. And I know if you followed this live or you followed the Impact Sales podcast or any of the other things that we do on social media, you know that in our company, the Sales Activist, or even when I coach one-on-one, I talk a lot about how value in today's world especially is almost becoming a commodity. People expect value. The value has to be there. It needs to be there to even get their attention in many cases today. And it's just what I like to call the lowest common denominator, where it doesn't matter who you are and what you offer, but you better at least be providing value. That's the first minimum qualifier. But sometimes that's not enough in today's world. Sometimes value is the lowest level of where you need to be. And that's where we talk about a lot of the things that we talk about related to the idea of impact. See, value is what people get based upon what you offer, right? And it can be described in a lot of different ways, and there are extensions of that value. But I think most extensions of value really translate into what I call the impact phase. And the impact phase is truly what people really get and how it makes them feel. See, people will historically make a buying decision based upon how they feel about something emotionally. It has to feel right. They have to have a good vibe on what you are showing them. They just have to feel that there's good alignment, right? And no amount of pricing, no amount of affordability, or no amount of anything else will overcome something if somebody doesn't feel right about the decision. If emotionally they're disconnected from it, it's just not a good fit. So impact is how somebody feels about it. Value is truly what they get specifically. And since you're all going to be providing valuable offerings or services to the people that you work with, you really need to spend the majority of your time talking about impact, talking about the things that impact them emotionally, that gets you to the point that you can close 3x more, 3 times more than what you typically close. And a lot of the work that we do, we'll put a 3x guarantee out on the type of work that we do, because we know that if people follow the steps that we put out there, that they will at least triple their sales results. Now, that may seem like a bold claim, but it isn't as it relates to where most people fall apart. Probably better than 85% of the people in sales interactions don't go far enough as it relates to exploring impact. So, where does that transfer really occur? See, after you've shown them what you do and after you've talked about the value, right? All those things are automatics, or as I've said, almost a commodity. After you've done all of that, how do you get into impact? How do you get to the point that you close 3x more? Well, it really comes down to the fact that you need to stop selling and ask better questions, dig deeper into what's going on with your prospect, dig deeper into the impact that your product, service, or offering will have on their life, will have on their business, and more importantly, will have on how they feel about it. Because the better those questions are, the more powerful those questions are, the more impact that you truly drive with your product, service, or offerings to the world, the more successful you're going to be. Where a lot of people struggle in today's world is they follow some what we'll call outdated methodologies. There are many methodologies that'll talk about the ideal time to close is when that person has felt that they've got enough value for the cost of purchasing whatever your product or service is. And that may be true in some cases, but because of the high degree of education that consumers have nowadays, the high degree of research that they've done. See, years ago, people didn't do a lot of research on things. It was really up to the sales professional to help educate them. Well, nowadays, 60% of that education sometimes is done before the sales professional ever really interacts with the client because they've already done that research. They've already done that background legwork on you. They've done their due diligence to a degree, and they're hearing directly from you about specific things. They already know the foundational stuff, but they're hearing about specific things. And in that case, just giving them the X's and the O's and then asking for the business may not be enough because it hasn't become an emotional decision. And where people fail a lot of times is they ask for the people to move forward and there's no emotional connection to the decision because there were no impact questions really asked. And the client's only answer is, oh, I don't know, or I want to think about it, or doesn't feel right to me. I'm not quite ready. And that sales professional, and it doesn't matter whether you're working for yourself or for a company, is left with a very particular challenge. And it's having to get back to a place where that person may make a buying decision. So that the true goal behind all of this is to get yourself in a place where you're asking the right questions that have a significant impact. So to the title of today's live, and how do you 3x and close 3 times more by stopping the sales process, you should, at the point that you get to the point that you get resistance and you haven't gotten a positive affirmation that they're really into what it is that you're doing, you should stop selling and you should start questioning. And here's what I mean. Start asking deeper, more meaningful questions. Dig into the impact that those things may have on your prospect. Say, for example, if you're providing a tremendous cost savings to a client, ask some impact focused questions such as, if we save you X amount of dollars as a result of our work together, what might you do with that money inside your business? And then let your prospect talk about it. Let your prospect describe it. Let your prospect allow that thought to become emotional for them, something that's real, something that's spoken about, and now is something they're thinking about. See, if people talk about something and it becomes an idea, it is something that they can tap into and want to have in real life. If they don't talk about it, if they don't answer a question that leads them down that path, they may never make that connection. Or they may make the connection, but it isn't as real. It's not as emotional. And I'll give you an example of the difference in that. Instead of it being a cost savings, let's talk about it being a time savings. Everybody in today's world, right? It's a busy, crazy, hectic world. Everybody's looking for more time. How can I get more time back? How can I have more time for myself, more time for my family, more time to do the things that I want to do when I feel so stressed about everything going on in my business? It may not be available to them. But if you're bringing a solution that creates time and that time is now given back to them, ask that prospect, what would you do with the time? and then listen to what they say. Maybe that time could result in extra time with their family. Maybe that parent can now make events that they couldn't make for their children's activities, or maybe it results in extra time with their family, visits with their family, and spending more time with extended family. Maybe it goes even deeper. Maybe it's an extra vacation or two each year that they couldn't take before because they just couldn't get away from their business, right? These are emotional things to the person that's receiving them. It's not about dollars and cents. It's not about cost at that point. It's about how they feel and what they get. It's a very emotional decision. And part of the reason why you want to ask those questions of your prospect or your client, part of the reason why you want to go down that emotional journey with them is because when people start talking about it, it goes from being concept to a potential reality. And if that potential reality could become true reality for them by working with you, you now have a really good opportunity to work with that person. If they never quantify it or communicate it or describe it or even go down that path and think about it, they may never get to the emotional place that you need them to get to. See, the other thing about slowing down your selling and stop selling at certain times is it takes the conversation from being confrontational or stressful between two parties. Because look, let's face it, when you ask somebody to make a decision, for many people, it's a natural stressor. It puts a wall up with them. It puts them in a defensive position. And it immediately can make your efforts harder to be successful. It makes it more challenging for you to get them to make a decision to move forward. So, how do you go ahead and remove that pressure? How do you go and remove that tension? Well, you start making it conversational. You start talking about what it is that they may receive and what they may get and how they would feel about it. And if you think through any possible feature or benefit that your product or offering provides your client, any of them, it doesn't matter what it is, you could ask some emotional questions, guiding questions that get them to talk about what it would mean to them. And that meaning could be money, it could be time, it could be peace of mind, it could be anything that is going to create an emotional reaction in your prospect. Maybe it's just the fulfillment of a promise, something that that business owner or person has promised to do and hasn't been able to do because something inside their business has held them back. Something has put them in a position where they haven't been able to deliver on what they planned on delivering. Well, your offering, your product, your solution, your gift to the world could absolutely provide that for them. It could literally put them in a position where they are able to receive that. And the fact is, you not taking them down that emotional path, you not putting them in a position that they could literally receive that, puts you at a disadvantage. It puts you in that stressful place where you have to try to convince them just based upon value elements that it makes sense for them to move forward. And I want to encourage you all to take the salesperson's cap off and get back to being a human being, get back to just being a person who's trying to solve a problem, trying to be a trusted advisor to your clients, and then get to know them on a deeper level. Now, I don't want this to be perceived as manipulative. I don't want this to be perceived as you trying to conduct some type of Jedi mind trick on your prospect. I want you to be your true and genuine self in talking to people and truly trying to help them get what they're looking for. Like the old adage says, you want to get what you're looking for, go help a lot of people find what they're looking for. And along the way, you'll receive what you're looking for. Most importantly for yourself, though, to be successful in selling, it comes back to doing one thing very, very well. And it's guiding your prospect towards making the best decision for themselves. Now, sometimes that decision may mean that they don't end up working with you. And that's okay if it's not the best fit, not the best solution, not the thing that they really need to do most. You'll find that you helping them get what they need most, even if it's not working with you, will benefit you down the road because they may give you referrals. You could say to them right at the beginning, and I share this with all the people that I work with and coach, you get paid in two ways. You get paid in the form of the products and services that you provide, and you always can get paid in the form of a referral. If you're in sales and somebody refers you to somebody that could use your services, that's extremely valuable to you. So help people get what they're looking for. You want to triple your sales revenue, your sales results, the amount of deals that you close. You want to close 3 times more often. Take your sales cap off, toss it off to the side, just be yourself and ask better questions. Dig into what's going on with your clients, with your prospects, with the people that you're sitting there and talking to. Just get to know them a little bit. It would frustrate me to no end, especially in the corporate world where I would spend time with sales professionals and it was nothing but business, straight by the book, asking very specific questions, getting specific answers, doing a basic discovery phase, and then immediately starting to pitch the product, pitch a solution. They hadn't even earned the right to ask for the business yet, but they were already asking that person to make a decision. It was so backwards. And I would say to people all the time, I would rather see you slow down and build a better relationship and turn it into 2 calls or 3 calls and then get to work with them down the road than to go in there and blow up the relationship because you're pushing too hard. And the fact is, for a lot of people, for most people, it's more in line with their own personality to do it that way. It's more in line to be more relaxed and conversational, to get to know them a little bit, and then to come to an agreement on how you might be able to help. More people are comfortable doing that than being a hard closing, pushing salesperson. And the fact is, nowadays, especially with the amount of education that's out there, you don't want to get the reputation of being that person. Now, I'm not saying you can't be direct, and I'm not saying at all that you can't, push people to make a good decisions for themselves at the right time. What I'm saying is build the right foundation for yourself, earn the right by asking better questions. Have a servant mentality for your clients. And that means taking the salesperson's cap off a little bit, putting it off to the side, and getting to know them at a deeper level, asking impact driven questions. Now, these are things that are happening over and above, on top of all of the work that you traditionally do, like educating your prospect or your client on what's available and how it works. And I'm not talking about any of that stuff. That's normal. That should happen. That's part of the value phase. That's where you really should be spending your time and energy at the beginning part. But when it gets to the point that you're really trying to explore what it means to them, you really need to spend the majority of your time on impact across what I call the impact line. See, there's a line in that conversation, in every sales conversation, where you transfer from just talking about value and just talking about product and solution, and you get into the meaning of it all. And the best salespeople out there, the elite salespeople that are out there, they spend most of their time on the right side of the impact line. And that impact line is that point where you need to start asking impact driven questions, impact focused questions of your prospects, things that are going to get them thinking about specifically what they get from your product or solution. So let's dig into some impact questions. If you're going to take your salesperson's hat off, we've got to arm you with the right type questions so you can ask those things of your prospect. If you're not going to be selling and pushing right there, how do you ask the right questions? Well, it comes down to good conversational skills. It comes down to continuing a conversation by asking your prospects over and over again to continue to share as much as they can about something. So I'll give you an example. So go back to that example I used related to that person who maybe gets more time back in their schedule. Maybe it's an extra vacation. And ask that person, so if I understand correctly, you're saying that if you did move forward with our solution, you expect that it would save you so much time that you could take an extra vacation or two each year. Is that correct? And you would get them to agree. Well, let me ask you, what would you do on your vacation? What would be the first trip that you would take if you were taking a vacation and you now had it within your reach to do, and you could take that time away without it impacting your business because of what we do for you? What would you do on that trip? And then let them describe it for you. Let them describe exactly what they would do. And maybe that trip is They would go to the beach. Maybe they would go to the mountains. Maybe they'd go skiing. Maybe they would travel to an international destination that they've always wanted to go to, but never felt comfortable doing. Whatever it is, let them tell you. And then once they've told you, ask them specifically what they would do on that trip. Oh, so if you're going to the beach, do you have a particular beach in mind? What would you do when you're there? Are you a in the water person or an out of the water person? Do you sit there and just enjoy the environment and soak up sun, or do you get in the water? Do you actually scuba? Do you dive? What do you do? Dig into those things. Ask them to tell you as much as they're willing to share and continue to go back to those things. Why? Because they're now thinking about it. They're now experiencing it. They're now imagining what it would be like to be on a beach in the water doing whatever it is that they'd like to do, or sitting there on the beach laying in the sun. They're thinking about it. It's becoming real to them or close to real. And it's happening all because you'd be able to provide something that would add tremendous value. Okay. This is a really important tip that you should take from this. Ask specific questions when they tell you what it is that they may do. If your example is one where you're saving a business some money or increasing their sales or giving more, adding more dollars to the bottom line of their business, ask them specifically what they would do with the money inside their business. And I like to use the analogy of, if I wrote a check for you right now and gave you $100,000 for your business and I slid it across the desk for you, what would you use the money for? What would you do inside the business to have an impact? And then let them describe it. And everything that they describe, try to get just a little bit more detail, because the goal that you're trying to accomplish is you want each person to describe to you in as much detail as they will share exactly what they're hoping to get from it. And the reason why that is so powerful for you in a selling environment is nowhere in any of that is it about cost? Is it about product? Is it about the specific details of your solution or product or offering? None of that stuff matters. What we're talking about now is specifically how they feel about it and what it does. That's it. And when people are focused on that, and you're the person that has guided them through that emotional journey, if you're the person that has helped them think it through and realize, wow, if I just added a little bit more to the bottom line, I could expand marketing. I could add 2 extra people in this other department. I could do so many more things in the business to help it grow. It could have a really positive impact. If you're the person that is describing that journey for them and asking them questions and enabling them to share that vision with you, you're going to find that you're the person that they're going to trust most in the deliverance of that vision, of that dream, of that goal. See, side by side, if you have a conversation with somebody and you don't do any of those things, you only talk about product, you only talk about the cost, and you show them the answer. Here it is. Here are our terms, conditions. Sign here, Mr. Client. We want to make you a client. Here it is. This addresses all your needs, and you close there. You'll win some business. But I'll tell you this much. It's not uncommon at all for somebody else to come in and develop the type of relationship that I'm describing, the type of understanding of their goals, their wants, their desires for their business, and the emotional journey. It's not uncommon for somebody that does that to take that business away from somebody that doesn't do it. It's also a much more powerful way of winning new business and protecting your clients going forward. See, if you're that person that develops that relationship with them and you continue to reinforce that in the sales process, as well as when they're a client, when you're trying to upsell them to something else, or when they're potentially thinking about leaving you and you go back to the things that were important to them, you have a lot of ammunition to use. You have a lot of resources to go back and tap into. You could talk about their goals, their aspirations, what they wanted to do on their vacation, what they would do when they were on their vacation, how much money they would save, what they would invest that money in inside their business, what impact would it have on the people that are inside the business, what jobs would be created, the peace of mind that could be created. You have so much more to work with. And the fact is, whether you know this or not, there are 3 specific sales environments that every professional is going to be selling in You have new acquisition sales where you're trying to win that client for the first time. Then you have retention selling where they're already a client and maybe you're selling them something else, or maybe you're trying to retain their business year after year. That's a different dynamic. And then there's also what we call win back selling, or winning back somebody that you may have lost that was a previous client. And for whatever reason, you lost them along the way. All three of those sales environments are dramatically impacted when you spend time on the impact driven questions. Not only will you build better relationships and will people look at you as a trusted advisor because you cared enough to ask, but your likelihood for success is much greater than the person that doesn't do those things, that doesn't ask better questions. On a number of my recent episodes of the Impact Sales podcast, many of the people that I've interviewed on there have shared that for a lot of salespeople, they struggle because sales professionals in general, on average, aren't memorable. Well, how do you become memorable? Well, that's simple. Do things that other people don't do. Stand out from the crowd. Be different. Now, I'm not talking different in a weird way. I'm talking different in a way that's endearing to them, that's supportive, that makes them realize that you're their trusted go-to source. You're their resource for doing what they want to do and making those dreams accomplished. Now, before we jump into the power of that and really take it to the next level in the second segment, I just want to take a minute again and just remind everybody that the Sales Activist was created to be a single resource where people can get the tips that they need to help their business move forward. You can reach out to me for any help you may need with selling, particularly related to bigger ticket sales, high ticket offerings, by texting the word sales to the number 321-421-5213. That's sales to 321-421-5213. You can see all of our social media. You can connect with us on our social media there. You can also schedule a complimentary impact sales strategy session to talk about what's going on with sales in your business. If you want to triple your sales results, schedule some time on my calendar. We'll talk one-on-one specifically about your challenges, and I'll give you the impact sales questions that you need to take your sales to the next level. But don't miss the opportunity to take advantage of that. There's no obligation in the strategy session. Just jump on my calendar. I'm happy to do it, and I look forward to talking to you. So let's jump back in and talk a little bit more about how specifically you can take sales to the next level with those impact-driven questions. How do you close 3 times as much as you used to close? It's by spending time across that impact line and asking those deeper questions. Now, why can I say that you'll close 3 times more? It's simple. Not only do you differentiate yourself, you're doing things that the average person doesn't do to any extreme to become memorable. You'll position yourself as a trusted resource, as a trusted advisor. Why? Because you're truly approaching it not about what's important to you. It's not about product or service or offering or solution at that point. It's about the feeling that your client gets. It's about what they truly receive, the hidden value, the hidden impact, the ultimate emotion for them is knowing what greater value and impact that your offering has on their life and their business. And it goes beyond just what the cost of your program or offering is and the cost of what it is that you do. It's truly about how they feel about it. If you make somebody feel that all of the things that they're describing to you are within their reach by simply working with you, it's a much easier conversation. And I wanted to spend the next couple of minutes talking about how easy that can become. In the title of this live, I talked about stop selling. Well, how do you stop selling and still close business? How do you close 3 times as much? It's simple. You do stop selling. You start reminding them about what it is that your offering could do for them and the impact it could have. For example, if you're having a conversation with somebody and they say, it would be so important for me to add that money to the bottom line because not only could it turn our business around, I could hire some people back that maybe I had to let go. I could get back on track with the business as well as just get into a better place personally. And you find out that personally, they've invested a lot of their own time, money, and effort into the business, and they don't want to see it fail. Maybe it's a multi-generational business. There's multiple people in their family that are working there. Maybe it's a legacy business that's been passed on to that person. There's a lot of pride in that decision, and they want to make sure that that business doesn't fail. Do you think at that point it's about dollars and cents? Do you think it's about the exact cost of your offering? No, it's about the bigger picture and the things that it could do for them. Well, when it comes time to ask them to move forward, instead of saying, "Would you like to do this? Here's the terms and conditions," you can say something like, "I know when I asked you, you specifically said that this would be extremely important to you and your family because you could see how our offering could dramatically add money to the bottom line and ultimately help you do a lot of the things that could save your business. Is there any reason that you wouldn't want to do that as soon as possible?" Well, no, there really isn't. Well, how quickly can we get started? How quickly can we start you moving down this path? See, it's a much different conversation when you're talking about something that means something significantly to your prospect. I mean, not just from a solution standpoint, truly from an emotional place that it's going to have an impact. But the only way you know those things to tap into, the only way that you know the true impact that you could have on them and their business is by asking those questions. When you faced resistance, when you face pushback, on your product or service you're offering. Maybe it's a price objection. Maybe it's a competitive influence where another competitor is offering something that's similar or close to what you're offering for. How powerful would it be when you say to them, when we spoke about this, you said it would be extremely important to be able to receive the value that we described. You said it would have a big impact on your family. It would give you more time. It would put you in a place where you could take vacations, something you haven't done in a while. These things transcend cost. And the reason why I specifically ask those questions of you, Mr. Prospect, is because that's the level of which that I like to work with my clients. I want them to know that I'm here as their trusted resource to make those things happen through the products and services that we provide. It's a powerful, powerful statement. It can overcome price. I've seen many times, not only in my own example, in my own experiences, but in the experiences of the people that I've trained and coached and mentored. Many times people have moved forward with a more expensive solution because they felt a better connection, a better synergy with the person that was providing that service, because that person developed the relationship the right way. They asked the right questions. They expanded it. There's a lot of psychology that goes into sales, and it's not just sales tactics. It's not just closing skills. It frustrates me to no end when people say, "Well, what's your best close?" My best close is the one that I never have to use, when it just comes as a result of a conversation where the client says, I have to do this. I know I need to do this for myself and my family. You've described it to me so well. What do I have to do to move forward? That's the best close, when I don't have to say anything specific about them taking action, where we've had such a great conversation, where we've talked about all the things that meant the most to them, and they've looked at their life, their situation, their business, and they say, "I know I need to do this. What's the next step?" That's when you know you're closing at a high level. And when you ask those types of impact questions to get your client, your prospect, thinking about those things and making it real, the next step for them is, how do they turn it into reality? And you become a means to that end. You become the fulfillment of that vision, the fulfillment of that dream. And that's extremely powerful. It doesn't matter what you offer. If you become the fulfillment of their dreams, goals, and aspirations for themselves or their business, you will always be successful in selling. If you focus on selling a product, fixing a problem, selling a product, providing a cost needs analysis to what it is that you do, and you don't make it emotional, you will always struggle. There will always be a challenge closing business. There will always be somebody who is willing to dig deeper and develop those deeper relationships. So my wish for all of you, if you're watching this live, if you're catching the recording, or if you hear this in any other format that we share it, make sure that you invest the time necessary to develop the type of relationships that you really want to have with your prospects and your clients. Solve bigger problems. Make it emotional. Make it real. Guide them through a process of guided discovery and asking these questions. guide them to the only logical choice to get them what they said was very important to them. Guide them through that process in the questions that you ask and the way that you do it. I know for a lot of people, they struggle with that. A lot of people that I work with and talk to will struggle with that. They see a situation and they know one way of doing it. They're like a one trick pony. It's cost driven, or it's specific to this solution, and it's focused on the end deliverable. And I'm going to tell you that you'll win business that way, no question, because some people will like you and they'll like the solution and it'll make sense financially. But it is so much more powerful when you do all of that, plus truly get into um, the emotions behind why people feel that it would have a big impact on their life. When you are able to do that, you develop a deeper connection to all of your prospects or your clients. You're not only just a service provider or a vendor. You take the next logical step, the truly important step, which where you go from being, a resource, a commodity, a vendor, to being a trusted advisor, a go-to source, somebody who's on the inside of their decision making. And it's because you ask questions that the other person doesn't ask. 90% plus of the average salespeople out there, and it doesn't matter what industry, it doesn't matter what they offer the world, 90% of them don't go far enough in asking those impact driven questions. And the more competitive a market becomes, the harder it is to stand out. And I'm giving you a way of standing out for free. Ask better questions, dig deeper, make a better connection emotionally with your prospects. It's not about marketing. It's not about anything other than getting to know people better. There are people today, right now, that do this masterfully, that don't market, don't advertise. They just get to know a couple of people. They do it really, really well. They develop great relationships and they do business with those people. They continue to do business with those people. Those people refer them to other people because they had such a great experience. They refer them to that next level of referral, and they continue to work with people doing the same things that they did with that first wave. And they do all of their business that way. And the reason why they're able to do that is they've mastered truly how to ask the right questions, impact driven questions, and building relationships. And sometimes the healthiest, best relationship that you may have with somebody doesn't mean that you'll work with them. I said it earlier, and it's very, very true. If it's not the best fit, if somebody else's product or solution is better, the best thing that you could do for them is say, I'm not probably the right person for you, or our solution isn't the best. There might be a better option out there for you, and to take full advantage of it. So if you want to be that type of person that stands out and separates yourself from everybody else that's out there, do those things. Focus in on asking those deeper questions. And I shared it earlier. I'm gonna share it again. If you want help in doing that, reach out to me. Text the word sales to 321-421-5213. And I'm happy to talk you through impact focused questions and guiding somebody through that sales process. It's extremely powerful because not only will you stand out against your competition when you're selling to a new client, but you will have the tools and ammunition you need when your current clients maybe feel an interest level to look elsewhere. So if you have somebody who's potentially on the fence and maybe they're going to leave you, maybe there's things that they're considering doing that may result in you losing the business. Well, you now have ammunition to go back and work with them on. You have things to talk about. As an example, Mr. Client, when we first did this, the reason why we did this and set you up, if you recall, was you had said how powerful it would be for you to get back that extra money for your business. And we're delivering that for you right now. And you're able to do those things. Let's continue down the path. Let's maximize that. Let's get the most out of this that we can for you so you could fulfill those dreams that you have for yourself in your business. It's much more powerful than trying to be there stacked side by side with somebody that comes in and offers something that's a little different, a little unique, or quite honestly, maybe just a little more fresh than what you've currently provided them. And fresh by way of something that's newer or innovative. The fact is that those decisions are made many times in business. Somebody comes up with something that seems just a little different and it's innovative, and somebody decides, I'm going to drop what I'm doing and I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to try this for a while and see how it goes. Well, if you want to protect against that, if you want to protect from losing those types of clients because they want to jump to the next flashy item, the next shiny object, well, you better come up with a deeper relationship with them. You better expand on the impact that they receive through the questions that you ask. This is such a powerful methodology that I really want you to embrace. If you want to 3x your sales results, both for a new business and retention sales, as well as winning back people at a better pace than what you ever did before, ask better questions. Dig into what it is specifically and what it means. Now, I know there's certain people here that might be listening to this live or on the recording that are uncomfortable with that. It makes them feel a little uncomfortable asking those touchy-feely type questions. It becomes a little too emotional for them. And that's perfectly normal. And I'm going to tell you, there's a way to work through that as well. There's a way to get comfortable with those steps, comfortable with what you need to do to be able to have the impact that you want to have. If you really want to have the impact in your own business, then you need to go out and impact others. And the only way you really know how to do that is to peel out the layers and figure out what really makes them tick. Don't think transactionally, think relationally. Think about developing the relationships. Even if you don't work with them now, the relationship will be stronger later and you'll have your opportunities. When they do work with you, the relationship will many times preserve the revenue for you. If the relationship is strong, the business will stay. If there are things that are completely outside of your control and it's side by side, like for like, any offering that's close to what yours is, and the other person hasn't developed that relationship with them, truly doesn't have that same type of relationship, more than likely you will keep the business. You won't lose it. And you'll be able to continue to work with that client. But if that person does those things and develops that relationship and does the things that maybe you haven't done well or didn't do it well enough, you'll find that you're always going to be in jeopardy of losing that client. It's the nature of the world we live in. There's plenty of options out there. People can find everything they need from the palm of their hand in their smartphone. So you have to understand that to continue to maintain relationships, you need to focus on those questions and developing and enhancing the relationship wherever you can. One of the things that we're most proud of in the work that we do with the sales activist is the fact that over the many, many years that we've worked with people and the thousands of people that I've worked with personally, I've had the great opportunity of talking to people through some pretty challenging sales circumstances, $1 million deals, $500,000 deals, large ticket sales, all the way down to developing consistent trends and momentum in a business, turning around a business that's struggling sales wise. And I'm going to tell you the secret sauce to all of that, where it all comes from. It comes from asking the right questions, developing the right metrics, and getting into a deeper relationship with your prospects and your clients. See, when you're able to do that and do it consistently and develop a relationship that expands the depth of which the clients, you make that leap from vendor or service provider to trusted advisor. And everybody out there, anybody that's elite in selling knows that being the trusted advisor, that trusted resource, is the name of the game. That's where your best work is done. That's where the best relationships are formed. That's where things actually build momentum on themselves, because it's so easy to develop referrals and additional lines of business and new business from existing clients, as well as opening doors when everybody's interaction with you is positive, where they feel like you're their trusted go-to person. They know you get them and vice versa. And honestly, that you cared enough to ask what was truly important to them. See, the other thing that frustrates people about sales professionals is they truly don't believe, prospects don't believe, that the sales professional is more focused on their needs than their own. Most people believe, accurately or not, that they believe that that salesperson is more interested in making the sale than they are about helping them. And you need to completely change that perception. You need to completely turn it around. It starts, number one, by being sincere and not being that person, but being somebody who really does want to help. And if it's not the best solution, it shouldn't be with you. It should be through somebody else. There's been many times when I've referred people to other resources because I felt there was a better solution available to them. And that's good business in my mind, because that immediately told that person, wow, this guy honestly did the right thing. He could have tried to convince me that he could do it, but I didn't. I referred it to somebody else because it was the right thing. That is so powerful in the business world that it will open up more doors than you could ever imagine. But more importantly, it'll develop the relationship where people understand that your mindset is a servant mindset. Your mindset is one that you're truly trying to serve their needs. Too many times people have made buying decisions because they thought the person was really interested in their well-being, but they weren't. They were only interested in their own well-being. They were only interested in the work that they were doing and what they benefited from. And in the even worse case scenario is they were only interested in what they got out of the relationship, not what else they could do for somebody else. And the easiest way of being successful is to put other people's needs first and focus on what they get and stay in that realm of the impact driven questions. Because when you do that, you'll find that a lot of things start falling in place. People feel better about the recommendations you make. They feel more comfortable with referring people to you. When they don't work with you, they feel a higher degree of connection to you. And when that connection is deeper, they want to see you benefit. They want to see you do well as well. So they'll refer people to you. They would have gotten to like you at a deeper level, and that'll result in more business for you. So when you're out there doing business and you're trying to figure out how to create more sales and generate more sales, I will tell you, get out there, be your true and genuine self, put yourself in a position where you can truly impact as many people as you can. And when it comes time to doing it, do it the genuine way. Get to know people, get to know what really makes them tick, what's important to them, what they really want to get out of something, and what it means. And if you could spend time talking about the emotion behind what people receive from the offerings that you provide, you're going to solve a lot of problems and you're going to help a lot of people. So as you think about sales and selling going forward, keep in mind the impact driven questions. Make sure that you have the type of impact that you've always wanted to have on people by helping them reach what's truly important to them, what really is emotional for them. And that comes from focusing on asking them those questions and what they want to get. If I could be a help or resource to anybody that's listening to this live or on any of the recordings, please reach out to me. You can text the word sales to the number 321-421-5213. You can check out our social media. You can also connect with me and schedule a complimentary consultation where we'll dig into sales, dig into what's going on with sales for you, figure out your impact sales questions, and get you on the right path towards sales success. This is Joe Beck with Impact Sales Live. Connect with me next week at Impact Sales Live at 4 p.m. Eastern. You never know what you're going to hear on Impact Sales Live. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.